All right, welcome everybody. We are in week number 2 for the book Life Let It Flow Effortlessly. I'm glad that you guys are here with us, and what we're going to do today is I've got basically pages 5 through 33 that we're going to go through, which is quite a big chunk of the book, but it all fits together really well. And so what I wanted to make sure of is we're going to lay out a foundation here for the discussion, and then I'm going to open it up for you guys to have discussion, because what's most important in this group is basically how you guys are seeing this working in your life. But I want to be able to share some stories and give you some reasons for why I think this is so important, and make sure you don't step over some of the simplest of things that are in the book as well. So it starts out with our section today. It's on page 7 there. How are you? And so really this question is a very interesting question. It's no, really, how are you? So let me just do a sound check real quick. Can you guys give me a head nod? Karen says she can't hear any sound. Are you guys hearing? Okay, Karen, I'm just going to ask you to drop off and then come back in again and see if you can get back in on the group, and maybe hopefully then technology will work with this, because it's working through the other ones there. So really, how are you? This is a big question. It's a big question. You think about how conditioned we are to respond to how are you. We're like, oh, fine, I'm good, whatever. We deflect back pretty quickly to this question. So what I want you to do is kind of slow it down and actually think about it, and in this sense, so really, how are you? And if we let that question land, like, how are you? Think about that for a moment and feel it in your body, like when it lands into your belly button, really, how are you? And if you can be truly honest, be vulnerable, then that's going to be able to help you to really come into some awareness. And that's where we're going to start today, because no matter what situation you're in, being able to understand how you can really check in with yourself, this is a key piece for us to stop the pattern that's going on in our life and to be able to start to mentor yourself. The whole intent of this book is to be able to help have a conversation with you and to help you to be able to mentor yourself. So as I'm doing this with you, we're involved in this work, but I also want you to see it being done, because I want you to see yourself doing this not only with yourself, but with the people that you're going to be working with. And that's going to be a key piece of how we transfer this knowledge out into the world. Imagine, rippling this out into others. That's really what we want it to do, because there's a lot of people right now who would argue that it's not possible to have life effortlessly. And so if we look at that in that way, just imagine if we can't even get to having life effortlessly, then how in the world are we ever going to get to business effortlessly, right? There's going to be people that would be arguing with us all the way on how many ways that would not be possible. So starting with ourselves and checking in with really, how are you? And doing this on a regular basis. So when we're doing these things, they may be simple, but I want you to kind of put these into your daily or weekly or monthly activities to kind of stop that pattern interrupt, okay? And that's going to help you to take an assessment, to be able to really be honest and make sure that you don't need to make a course correction before you continue down a path, right? As Henry Ford states, I've got that quote in there, whether you think you can or think you can't, you are right. Now, how many of us are living to a point where we're just living to be right? And that's an interesting place. Like, we are sometimes so determined to be right that we will basically crush our opportunity in order to be right. Oh, I knew that thing wouldn't work. Those kinds of things are scary. No one will buy from me, whatever. They're predicting that they're going to have that, and they're going to follow through the actions in order to be right. So you can hear it in people too. So, get good at listening to what your words say, and then as others you're working with, listen to what they're saying. Because what they're saying, they're actually telling you what they believe, and whether they believe that they can or can't, they are right. They're going to realize that. We might not even be able to point it out to them, right? So an interesting, softer way to do it, and it's not my ploy to sell more books, but if you've got somebody that this kind of information is coming at them, you could share your book with them. Share the one that you're writing in, that you're making your notes in and stuff, like say, hey, here's my book, I'll lend this out to you. Take a read of that first section and get it back to me and we can talk about it. Again, remember, this is a tool to help you work with more people. First yourself, then others. And that's what it was designed to do. It's designed to create a conversation that's going to create magnificent change, because we call that transformation, right? So So one of the other things too is I've found that people are surprised when I'm genuinely interested in them. Like when I want to help them or I'm doing something, I meet a stranger, I'm just being kind to them. They're put off sometimes because they're like, well, why would you care about me? You know, why would you give me free mentoring? Why would you want to have a phone call with me? Why would you want to help my group? Why would, you know, everyone's so in the way of receiving. It's really incredible. It's incredible because we've conditioned ourselves over time to think you do your own work in school and don't collaborate, and it's not an open book test, and we need to test if you're smart. But think about it. I mean, life is an open book test. We have all of our lifelines that we can call for answers, and we can involve every single person around us in all of the activities that we're doing, but we don't because we're taught to do things alone. And we're taught to be afraid of strangers, right? And I get that. There's a safety about that, right? So when you look at that, I can understand how we've gotten to that point. But imagine how when I see people be so like, well, why would you want to help me? And I'm like, because I can. You know, because I love to see people thrive, you know, and then be like, people were like, well, I'm not even in your business or in your team, or, I don't know you. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, couldn't we just be, graciously generous? And that's an interesting thing. That's kind of like this ripple again of what we're trying to share here is unconditional love for myself, for others, and then that ripple going out across the world and having it be where we create life effortless and business effortlessly. But what's interesting is to see how much people are trapped, and that was actually something that I've started to notice. And I was like, goodness, we really do need that more so than ever. And, being interested in people, and I'll talk about Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's an amazing book. You should have it in your stable of things, along with some of those other books from the 20s and 30s. They really do share the biblical principles of things in humanity. But if you think about it, if I'm interested in you, then you'll find me interesting. And so I'm an extrovert. It's easy for me to talk to a brick. But for the people who are more introverted, and I can make friends with a brick pretty quickly, so it's like, it's just an easy talent that I have. But for those of you that are introverted or maybe not so extroverted, if you'll share sincere interest in someone or something, and you'll express that, then that person is going to find you more interesting. It's just a reciprocal effect, right? If I smile, I'm most likely going to get a smile back. It has to be reciprocated. The energy goes out and it comes back with the same kind of energy. So if I give trust, I get trust. If I give interest, I get interest. If I share appreciation for others, then they appreciate me. And it's not that I'm doing it to get those things. It's because doing it feels great. And practicing that is going to expand your opportunity to be able to have connections and conversations. All we're doing in our life is inviting and involving people. And the more that we can be there in that situation, you might be the person that's at the other end of the phone when they just needed someone to listen. Everyone needs to be seen and heard. And at certain times, they need to be seen and heard in a really big way before they decide to do something silly to themselves, or they decide to check out and to isolate themselves, because we're not good alone. I mean, think about it in the farm sense. When you see a herd of sheep and there's a little teeny one over by the fence line, that's the one the wolf's going to go after, because it's easy to get the one that's isolated. So there's no difference in our human form. We're just trying to be able to get back to a point of we're better together, and no one gets anywhere alone. So that's just really a good principle to follow. And that's some of the things that we want to kind of do is we're really looking at how we are. We're trying to understand what kind of beliefs are underneath this inside of us, because we've gotten some beliefs in there that may not be true. And that's what we're kind of coming with, checking in first with ourselves so that we can then start to go into then how we work with others. So one of the things I wanted to do is to encourage you throughout the life process that this is actually a very simple process, but don't step over the fact of how powerful it can be. It might not even be anything new to you, but new to you would be that you would own it and you would be able to check your beliefs, be able to make solid decisions, which will cut away other opportunities and other distractions, and you'll get to acting on things that are really powerful for you, for your advancement, for your ability to lead a team, for your ability to influence a community, right? So many times people get into the, oh, I know, I've heard this before. You know, people have heard the Henry Ford quote. People have read the Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, but they haven't put it to work. And I had a lady one time, I don't remember where it is in here, I shared it, but she said to me that, I know that, and then she goes, well, maybe I don't know that because I haven't put it to action. So she intellectually knew stuff that I was repeating to her, and she was aware of it, but she hadn't put it back into her life to actually act upon it. So then she corrected herself and was like, well, I know it, but I don't do it, so I guess I really don't know it then, do I? And I thought that was really brilliant because she was a leader of a large team inside of her company. And she was really quick to understand that knowing is not doing, and be able to put it into action is where it truly can create a result. Because if we don't use what we know, we're not going to create anything different today than we did yesterday. And so, so I wanted to make sure and just kind of go a little deeper on how this work can be best utilized by you. So if it's a fact, like when we did training, in my previous life, I was an investor in a training company for entrepreneurs and direct sellers and network marketers. And one of the things we had a statistic on was if you just read it and start with it on that level, you'll only retain about 10%. So many times when we go to these big events and we do these different things, we're only going to actually retain a little percentage of that material that's been shared with us, especially if it's over multiple days and multiple hours. Because your body and your brain is just dumping stuff because it has to get the other stuff in. But the way that you can actually retain this and put it to better use or make it part of your transformative process and create good results would be that if you were able to take it in, journaling it, obviously when you're journaling about it, that is a key piece. And if you step over that, you can certainly read the book through and not do the questions. You could read them and not answer them. And that would be just skimming the surface. You'd barely be getting anything out of it. You're going to get some awareness. You're going to have some things, but you probably wouldn't retain very much on a long-term basis. So journaling it, when you're writing, when you're having your head, your heart, and your hand connected. Now you can type if you want to, but I would suggest you don't. I would suggest that you have a notebook and a pen. Grab a notebook that you love the cover of, something that inspires you to transform your eyes and your heart and that makes you feel good. You can go to the dime store, the dollar store, and get a cool notebook for one of the kids that has a great picture on it. You can go to the bookstore and spend a lot of money on a journal that feels fantastic. Get a pen that you love how it writes. Don't have a pen that irritates you or a pencil that bothers you. Because think about it, if you're involved in some old notebook with this, cruddy little pencil, you're going to be like, I don't like journaling. We don't want to be more of the negative in your life, right? So create this experience how you want to. It's one of the reasons I didn't create a journal to go along with the book, because I wanted you to be able to bring your own, selection to it, right? But I will tell you that I've already had people tell me that they were going through the book and they were reading through and they weren't answering the questions. And once they started to really dive in and start doing the journaling, it was like this, everything changed. Instantly transformed things. Lots of other doors opened up. They stepped into their greatness. Everything moved. And it was really cool because they were writing out things that were really important. They were getting them out of their head so they could see them and then they could work with them. Okay, so just understanding it's a part of the learning process to do this. And then as you're doing that at that level, if you just keep it to yourself, that's great for you. But I'll tell you that you'll retain more of it when you involve someone else in it. And that's one of the reasons why we have the Facebook group. So my request to you is, comment, show up, put pictures in there, do Facebook Lives, be a part of that, because that's a place where we're playing in a playground and you have no idea that your silly little thing that was maybe not so important, you didn't think, might be the one key answer for someone else to unlock their greatness. It's not about this book. It's about the community and the conversation that we're creating. So involving others, being vulnerable, being safe. That's one of the reasons why we have a private Facebook group for the groups to go through this, because we want it to be a safe area for you to be real. For you to, we try to keep everything in a high vibration, because we could certainly talk hours on what's not working. But what if we talked a few minutes and posted something about what's great or what we're hoping for, what we're celebrating, right? And then that gets fed by more and more encouragement. Now our energy is all pointed on helping people to succeed, helping people to grow. And that encouragement in these groups is just probably the most magical thing. It's the most priceless thing I've already seen, just in being able to get back to doing this. When I was doing the live workshops, that was the thing that was the magic that just got me up in the morning, because I knew that light bulbs were going to go off. And if I see you transform and turn into a great, speaker or influencer or business owner, or see you be able to retire your spouse or have more cash and go on more vacations and see your grandkids more, if I see that, it's great. But if all of us see that, it transforms our whole community. It creates lots of possibility. It unlocks all kinds of negative, limited thinking, right? And so what's cool is when it happens here now, like in those seminars, I didn't have those videoed. But in here now, when we do our discussion and when we have our Facebook feed, it's recorded in there. It's part of it. And people can go back and watch somebody come from low energy, tired, kind of like stuck, to boom, they start creating themselves and they start lighting up and glowing, and they start to be able to create more and more effortlessly. Everyone sees it. There's no denying it. And it happened in every member in the other group that I worked with in this as well. So I know that this can happen inside of these groups. It's just a matter of what is it you want. So part of how you are, we want to make sure that you're actually taking this material in. And so it's based on a principle of like the nursing industry or the military industry, where it's see one, then do one, and then teach one. So you're going to see me doing this. You're going to end up doing this with us because you're involving yourself, and I'm inviting you to go do this with other people. Imagine you doing this with a group of people in the future. You have the book, you have your own stories, you have my stories, you have anything you need, you leverage it, and you start doing this with another group of 3 or 4 people, and then another group, and that kind of thing. So you're seeing it, you're doing it, and then you're teaching it to another. And that starts this huge ripple effect of freeing people from the prisons that they've created themselves, right? There's no economy, there's no budget problem, there's no time issue, none. When we fall into traps to believing that, we are actually starting to be, kind of beaten down by the pace of the world, because you're unique and your greatness has not been realized yet. You have incredible things that have not gotten created out of you, or they have not sparked out of you yet. You have great potential because you still have life. And so in that, we don't even know what you're going to do. It's going to be amazing. But I just want you to understand that basically I found that people can do unlimited things if they believe that they can, right? And on page 10, inside of this, there's a whole listing of things here. For those of you that have the book now, you'll be able to see there's some things that I'd like you to consider, and I'd like you to really write your own, because these statements are about positive things like, I always have a choice and I can succeed, or people everywhere will help my inspired vision. Relationships help me reach my potential. These are facts that I've already seen happen in my life. And you'll have things that you'll want to add into that list, or that you'll want to maybe put onto a note card and put that up on your mirror, or put that by your bed, put that in your car, put it in your purse, buy your credit card. While you're spending value, make sure that you're understanding your value, right? And so understanding that these are key pieces here, right? I can reach my goals faster than I've ever imagined. That's a truth. We've seen this happen. I've seen it happen in myself and in others. So, writing down different statements like that and continuing to add to them, they become keys that unlock more doors from different traps that you may have found yourself in. And I just want to kind of ask you, what if you were here for you finally now? Like, what if you actually showed up for yourself and you were there for you and you were sold out on you and you were going to be your best friend? That's kind of what I'm calling you to consider. And that's what we're going to be opening up as we're kind of looking inside of you first, and then looking at outside of you, what is it you want? And then basically using our life process to get a plan to be able to make sure it's really simple for you to act. And that's the freedom that we offer here. So here's where we start. We start with, I believe in you. And I want you to do this with yourself. Like, get in front of the mirror and tell yourself, I believe in you. Say your name, look yourself in the eye, stand there, stare for a moment, and say, I believe in you. And as we get that part connected back again to powerful source to be able to make sure you're for you, It's going to be incredible when you understand how much you need to say it. You might say it, it might be behind your nose. You might say it, it might be trapped in your mouth. You might say it, it might be stuck in your throat. But when you say, I believe in you, and you say like your name, like Norma, I believe in you, and you say it from your belly button, there's no stopping you. There's no stopping you, because you truly believe in what you're up to, and you're bringing value and you're bringing uniqueness to every day. And celebrating that is something that we need to do, even if you don't get whatever result you're trying to keep score by. But I know that I believe in each of you. And that's one of the things that, you know, has sparked us to be working with you on this, is that I believe in your group, I believe in the potential, and I believe in what we have to offer. So in that, that's going to be a good checkpoint. Sometimes people are like, yeah, no problem, got that one down. Other times we could say that and think, oh, yep, I've got it, and then I missed it. You know, I didn't have it. I actually found that there was a weak spot in there. And so I'll put up some other things in our group that'll give you some other things to consider in working with yourself to draw you out. And then I talked about the journaling. Let's see here. Often we've gotten to a place where we've accepted something based on thinking that wasn't completely true. So all of this is to start to really shine light on what is the belief that you're living out. Now, belief in the situation of, you know, in Phoenix, people who had businesses believed that the summer business would decline because it was so hot, right? And other people would believe that, you know, businesses that are startups, you know, they have to go through struggles for the first 3 years. You know, these are beliefs that are passed along as true, but they're not really true. They're just adopted, and then when I believe it, then I basically make that happen, just like that Henry Ford quote. So just understand, we're going to be making sure that we're looking at beliefs, we're going to be aware of what's there, and we may need to change or shift that belief, because in the middle of that word BELIEF is the word lie. So inside of that belief can be a lie, LIE, inside of that. And we want to unlock that to be able to make sure you're aware of what it is you believe, and that you're looking at your beliefs and what you're believing, and you're making sure that this lie in the middle is not the thing that's actually causing you to miss out on what you have effect to do. So again, it's not a matter of whether or not this information is new or not, it's a matter of whether you take action on it. Because when we believe, then we decide, and then we act. And that's how this whole thing really works. So so I wanted to share with you, there's been, you know, like basically a crab theory. You may or may not have heard about it, but it started way back in the 1900s. Like, you know, people that are out crabbing, they basically could put one crab in the bucket. They would need a lid to put on top of that bucket. But if they put 2 crabs or more, they didn't need a lid. And it's because 2 crabs or more will fight to keep each other down, to pull each other down, to hold each other back. And, you know, I hate to say that we have this in humanity, and that's where I was saying, you know, as we're taught to be individuals, and we're taught to work on our own papers in school, and we're not taught to involve or collaborate or be in our community, we're isolated. And what happens is, unknowingly sometimes, it might not even be outward, it might be subconsciously, that we're holding judgment and we're pulling each other down. Like, who does she think she is? Well, if she's going to have money, she's going to be evil. Or, well, those people that own companies make too much money. You know, I mean, whatever it may be just some thoughts in your head. It might be something you're holding in your heart. But really, when 2 or more crabs are in the bucket together, they're pulling each other down. And that's what we have to watch out for, is that sometimes we don't know necessarily who those crabs are and where they're coming from. So that's what we're going to kind of look at here as we explore more about how you are. Because we want to identify that your bucket, basically in our terms here, that's your normal life. Your bucket may be that, you know, I never have any time, I never have any money, I have too many responsibilities. That's my normal bucket, right? I've defined my life by this bucket, right? That doesn't mean that you couldn't have more time, couldn't have more money, and couldn't have more opportunities. It's just you're not thinking that way. So your normal bucket needs to be yeah, we call that Krabby Patty out, right? It's cool. Oh my gosh, it's like, it's so interesting. It's like sneaky on us, right? And so, so understanding first what's that normal bucket you've got yourself trapped in, and then let's start to look at who those crabs are, right? Now understand too, I mean, when we're talking about change, the very first thing that we do when we're talking about change is our subconscious mind goes, wait, nope, no change is going to happen here. because your subconscious mind is geared to keep you the same and to keep you safe. It has to keep you the same and keep you safe. It's about survival, right? So if you start thinking that you're going to get things, and you see this in lottery winners, right? They win a lot of money and they have all this money, and then they have a mentality that they can't keep all this money. They have a way of thinking that doesn't suit that receiving of that, right? And then they go right back down to probably being lower than they were before. It's because they couldn't value themselves as a person of influence stewarding this kind of money, and they had to drop themselves back down to maybe even below where they started out, right? But that's your subconscious mind. So understand that it's normal to fear change. It's normal to play it safe. If you're trying to follow along there, I'm on page 15. It's like it's normal to choose caution instead of potential. And so it's normal. So just understand that we're not going to threaten anything. We're just going to be able to play with it. And as you're looking at the journal moments there, I want you to be able to spend some time and make sure you're coming back around to this kind of regularly, because as you develop, you're going to have different voices of crabs that are going to come up and be inside of you and outside of you. So remember to give them voice and let them speak their mind. And please never worry about writing down what the negativity is in this kind of an environment. We do speak about things and create our life, but in this situation, we're bringing out the negative so we can see where it is, who it comes from. You know, it might be generationally, you know, people like us never have any money, or people like us don't succeed, or we don't have influence, or whatever it is, but it might be generationally passed on, right? And it could be things about, you know, you're having to work hard. It's an honor to work hard. You know, we're a hardworking tribe of people, right? And so just remember that some of these things like that are going to need to come outside of you, get put on paper, so that we can look at them and reflect on them and be able to see like, wow, I didn't realize my brother, my sister, my father, my uncle, whatever, was really, you know, still speaking through this trend in our family. And so that's why we want to get it out there. So it's not about feeding it or giving the negativity more power. We're just getting it out for a moment. And we're going to work on it too, but we're not going to actually worry about working on it right now. All we're trying to do is get it out. And then in a few pages here, we're going to come back and actually diffuse the power of that. So when you take some time to do that, don't worry about putting negativity out there for just this moment, and then being able to know that we're going to diffuse it and find the antidote for it. And then also, I want to encourage you to come back around. Like, that's why we have the LIFO-meter in the back. We've pulled questions from different parts of the book and put it in this section called the LIFO-meter. And what that does is that helps you to keep coming back and kind of running these questions back again, maybe weekly, monthly, you know, quarterly or annually, to be able to make sure to check back in and see if you might be able to go a little deeper, or find out to, you know, make sure that something hasn't come in the way. Okay. So I had a story in the next section's Thanks Crab. Truly, I mean, I'm actually back in the area where this, you know, this story actually originated. My husband and I went to university at Western Kentucky University, and I was a waitress at the time. When I was waiting on these two ladies one night, they asked, you know, because they were in a college town, they would ask people, you know, like, well, what is it you're majoring? So it was pretty common that someone would ask me that question, but never did I ever have this response before. And so this lady said, well, what is it you're majoring in? And I said, commercial art, because at the time, you know, being a fine artist, I was focusing in commercial art, which was basically graphic design. And she said to me, she like immediately blew up like a pile of dynamite. She goes, well, I hope you like being a waitress, because you're going to be one the rest of your life. I'm a graphic designer and I can't get any work in this town. And I was like, whoa. I mean, that was just an incredible amount of energy that she threw up on me. And I remember, you know, thinking to myself later, I would have loved to have seen that on a video or something, because I would have loved to have seen what her friend looked like, because they're sitting at this table, just the two of them. But seriously, all I can remember in my mind's eye was what her lap looked like, because that's all I wanted to do, is take the 2 plates of food that I had in each hand and throw them on her lap and tell her that was so rude that she just did that to me, because I'm a young, you know, college student. She just squashed my dreams. But what was cool about that is later on, I realized that every accomplishment I had, you know, 2 weeks after Greg and I landed in Arizona, I received a job that was 2 times the amount of income that I ever expected. And then after I went through that job and moved into the next job, I was able to then get a raise in the environment where there was wage freezes and they were holding everybody back, but I was able to get a raise every year in that job where no one else got raises. And then, I went off into another job where this guy rescued me from that crazy environment where they never would give anybody any praise and recognition. And I got into an entrepreneurial company, which helped me to think about what would it be like to start my own business. And then when I started my own business, we were able to do that on a part-time side basis. And, I was able to double my income. And then when I went full-time and then I was able to triple my income. And I wished I could find that lady to give her the best thank you notes ever, to say thank you for crabbing at me, so severely that, she caused me to be almost like, I'll prove her wrong, right? And so part of that was like, I realized, wow, I gave a lot of energy in proving her wrong. What if I actually just went and proved myself right into what I was actually capable of? And that's kind of where we are now. We don't have any limit on what we can do. And we can actually realize uniquely every one of who we are. And I can inspire so many others to do the same. And so instead of proving her wrong anymore, I'm glad I've retired from doing graphic design. But now I'm actually out here going, wow, instead of fighting to go prove to her, what if I prove to, my creator what it is like he's created me to be? Isn't that cool? There's no limit then. You see how this can happen. Like in the reaction, I was creating great results. But when I embrace who I am uniquely, then I'm unlimited in possibility. And that's what this is all about. So it's really cool. And like I said, I would have loved to have known that lady, but I didn't think far enough ahead to get her address and to stay in touch with her. And I don't know that would have been that productive anyway, but I just share that with you because it was incredible. It seemed at the time it was devastating, and I felt very scared about what I was involved in because she was so, energetically violent to me. But it turned out to be a really good thing. So sometimes too, you may have someone like this that's in your environment that's really close to you. It may be, a friend or a family member. So one of the things I want you to kind of look at is, can you receive the comments that they give you as their evidence of concern and love for you? And if you can flip it around when they're bringing some negativity to you, can you see it as they were trying to protect you? And that's truly what that lady was trying to do. She just did it with a lot of energy, and it felt terrible. But she was really trying to protect me from something that she had suffered in and something that she was struggling with, right? And so sometimes we just have to look at it and see, maybe there might even be a way to involve people in your decisions when you're doing things. And the biggest key is that if you're going to change, they're afraid they're going to lose you and that you'll have no purpose for them in your life. So many times that fear comes out as a negativity in maybe condescending what you're up to or that you'll never make it. But mostly that's because sometimes there's a weakness in them that they can't imagine if you're going to be successful, then you may not value them anymore. And so that's where you can involve them. You can share their love language back to them, which is another reason why we do the love language and we do the profiles, because we want you to know who you are. And we want you to act on those strengths that you have. So that's why those are very important parts of this work, because if you don't know who you are and you're not understanding how you like to receive love and appreciation, then you're not aware of how others are and you're not able to give love and appreciation to them easily. And so that's just a lot of times what's happening under this sort of crab language, is that they're afraid they're going to lose you. As you become successful, you won't need them. Some people need to be needed, right? And so that's where you can try to shift that relationship if it's important. Instead of having them be needed, have them be loved and appreciated, have them be involved. And there's going to be some times where you have to have them just pushed away. And you have to have like a 3-foot rule, a little boundary, that maybe you don't share some things about new things that you're doing to certain people, because they're not going to be there for you. Then you don't need to carry that extra sandbag, because your hot air balloon will never get off the ground if you've got people that are like that are hanging on to it. It's too much weight. And you can come back around later and maybe talk to them, or maybe you limit your amount of involvement with them. But just remember who's in your bucket and remember what your bucket looks like, because you're actually changing things at a pace of transformation, and that's really a fast pace, right? And then, of course, the sneaky crab part is that you might be your biggest crab. I think that's what I find in this kind of work. You're the one that limits you more than anyone else. Everyone else believes in you. Everyone else admires you. Everyone else sees your potential. But for some reason, in some form or fashion, when you were in that development of, in the womb all the way through 8 years old, something got put in there in a concrete sense that's maybe not so true about you, or that got limited, or you maybe gotten hurt or harmed. And, it's a terrible process, but in those first formative years, that's where you developed a lot of your potential, and you believe things about yourself because, maybe mom or dad told you to hush. They may not have even said it in a harsh term, but when they did that, then that can shut you down, and you can think that your words don't matter, or that you don't have any value to share with somebody. One of my friends, we've been working with that, and it's been incredible as she's realized that was where the key was. And so now we've unlocked the ability that her voice matters. Everyone's voice matters, right? So just understand that this sort of sneaky crab is that it's inside of us. Sometimes it's us. And those are good to get those out, because then you can see them. They come out, they kind of like sneaky, stick their head around the corner. And if you don't write them down and catch them, they're going to be gone behind you. So just understand that your words have power, and you're going to create your own reality. So getting this out and being able to see it, then we can start working with it. And then also too, it might be that you're deflecting. It might not even be that it's not necessarily a crab. You're just not a good receiver. So if I give you a compliment about something and you're not receiving it in fully, if you're just like, no, okay, or, somebody's trying to open the door for you, or somebody's trying to invite you or introduce you, or you're like, no, I'm fine. We push people away, and we're not a great receiver on some things. So that's another good checkpoint on how can you open that up and allow people to help you. And so one of the key things that I had was a lady that told me that as she gave me a compliment, and if I kind of deflected it, she said, you're stealing away, you're robbing away my ability to give you a gift, whether it be a physical gift or a compliment. If I'm deflecting it, then I'm actually stealing away or robbing away her gift ability to me. And then if I'm doing that too much, then I train my relationships that, I might be a great giver, but I would have been, at that time, I was a horrible receiver. And so as you can change that pace, giving and receiving is a circulation of relationship, just like circulation in my body, just like the blood going through my body. If I only get blood going one direction, it's not going to be long till I'm, not able to function. So giving and receiving has to be a circulation in your life and in your relationships, okay? And so just understanding that you don't want to rip anybody off from that as far as them being able to give to you. And then here's a great thing that one of my mentors has shared with me. When someone gives you a compliment, say thank you. Not just thanks, not just quickly brushing it off, but say thank you. I like hearing that. Can you tell me more? And when you say that, what happens is you stay in that moment of that compliment. It's awkward and uncomfortable in the beginning when you try this out, but as you practice it and you actually do it, it's going to get better and better. And so as someone gives you a compliment, remember to be able to receive that well and say, thank you. I like hearing that. Can you tell me more? And as you do that, and then they are sharing more, then you're like understanding it more. You're getting gifts from them even at a deeper level. Plus they're getting seen and heard at a whole different level. So you're giving them a gift of truly being with their compliment. And then it's a better connection, a deeper connection. You're getting more idea, and you're actually understanding what they're telling you. So you can take it and you can learn from that. And then lastly, in this section here on the how are you, I was referring to Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is a true statement here that he has in that wisdom, is people are starved for appreciation. So just like, if I give interest to someone, they'll find me interesting. I have to understand that people are starved for appreciation. And as I appreciate those around me in my life and people who I've met come back around and reconnect, I'm actually having the ability to appreciate the value of all of my relationships. So if you think about an investment growing, it appreciates over time. Same is true for relationships, right? And so when we appreciate our relationships, they grow and they get more valuable. And so we're actually acting more like investors as we build out genuine care and have people be able to understand how much we appreciate them and putting words to it. So so the next section that I want to kind of go through here just real quickly here, and then we'll open it up here for some discussion, is what do you want? In that section of what do you want there, a lot of times I've felt that it was really hard to understand truly what I wanted. And it came at me kind of surprisingly when this lady asked me at lunch. She said, well, what do you want? And I actually got emotional about it because the fact was that I hadn't stopped to think about it. And I knew there was more, like I was being called to more, but I didn't know what it looked like, right? And I could see the transition between a career that I'd had for a while and where I wanted to go to basically draw people out, you know, to seed into people and to help people see exactly what we're working on here so that you can receive your greatness and we can watch your light bulbs come on and you can be transformed. That I knew that this was coming, but I didn't see it at that time. And I was caught in that transition between one and the other. So not knowing what you want is going to keep you stuck, because if you don't know what you want, you don't know where you're going. And for me, that was an emotional time because I felt like I had more potential. I just didn't know how it was going to realize itself. And it was really embarrassing to have all this meltdown in front of a friend that I just barely had met. And so, but it's interesting how these questions sometimes can come at you and you're like, oh, I don't know what I want. I don't even know who I am. And, you know, it's like these identity crises that we call it, like a why crisis. If you don't know your why, you're having a crisis of a why crisis. And so it's really important for you to do some of that work in there. So understanding this question that we're going to, you know, kind of embrace a bit, go deeper on it, is what do you really want? What is it that you're really trying to create right now? Like, you know, where you're at, what do you want? And give it some voice and let it be there without thinking of, I don't know how I'm going to get there. Because the minute you start getting into critical mode or judgment mode, you're going to knock down the opportunity to really, truly have your heart open up. And when you're writing a book, if you're writing a book and you're trying to edit it at the same time, you'll never get the book written because it's too hard to be the writer and the critic in the same moment. Okay, so same is true for this question, what is it you want? And being able to embrace it. It's not trying to judge the possibility of it, but actually it's really just leaning in on a principle that another one of my mentors has, his statement, it's like, ask the question and the answer will follow. So ask the question and the answer will follow. All I need to do is, you know, be able to start creating that and asking great questions, you know, in my prayerful time, in my inspirational time, asking questions, you know, where are the people that I'm connecting to for business? Where are my next customers? Where is the opportunity for me to, you know, make our monthly money work for, you know, this, the way things are today and things like that. So it's like, you know, we're asking that question because we want to know what it is that you truly want. And a lot of times we've gotten very calculated at not telling ourselves honestly what it is we need or what is it we want. So just think about this too, like if you're looking at it and you're trying to follow a sequence, I mean, success will leave clues. We have a strategy and a success pattern. If we know what we want, we can plug people into it, right? And if we skip steps, it'd be silly. It'd be like when we're creating bread and, you know, if we were going to make the recipe for bread and we didn't allow it time to rise, then that bread's going to be pretty flat, right? So we're going to follow a process that's going to work. But we have to know first what it is that you really truly want. And then if we know why you want it, that's a better ingredient as well, because that's going to help us to know if it really matters. Because it's going to be work, and the work is going to be internal. And sometimes it's really hard because you think, oh, it's going to be simple outside of me, but inside is the work that holds you back. So so sometimes as we're planning too, we may miss the bigger vision. That's that bigger why. Right? We need to know why, because sometimes we'll get into too meticulous of details and we forget the why. If we don't know why it is we're doing what we're doing, then those details can get mundane and overwhelming and we can get burned out. But if we remember the why that we're doing this is, you know, for me, I'm engaging with people so that you'll be sold out on you. You'll finally be here for you. And then you'll be that best friend, that best mentor, that best resource for yourself. So you'll be okay. It's like putting oxygen on you in the airplane. I'll know that you have your oxygen on, and that means that you'll be able to reach some others that need their oxygen mask put on or need help with theirs. And that's really the why I do this. And the reason for that is that in our family, we've had some issue and things in the past with grandparents and things like that who didn't understand their value. And they did silly things that hurt them and took them out. And so I just want to make sure that if we can reach more people to know that you're beautiful and priceless, that's why I do what I do. Because in doing that, I'm calling you out and having you be able to be the best that you've been created to be. And then we have more eyes and ears out there appreciating others. And I do believe that builds a strong community. So having that why be really powerful helps you to get through the day-to-day kind of things that are going to wear you out. But just imagine what would be possible. Here's a kind of quote here on page 29. Imagine what could be possible if you treated yourself with care and tenderness. Many of the people I meet admit that they're not their own best friends. Many times we become our worst enemies. And that's what I'm out here, being able to call you out to make sure that you're solid and you're for yourself. And then we go into like, what is it you're ready to believe? Where are you in your process, right? And then basically, what is it that you're looking at? Are you allowing miracles, right? Are you believing who you were created to be? And then are you actually looking at it from, being able to allow yourself to actually have the freedom of going as high as possible, being as unlimited as possible, and really honoring that your words, they do have power. And you can ask your friends like, hey, how is it that I'm talking? Give me some feedback. Am I talking positively or negatively? But just remember, as you can start hearing things, you're going to start hearing as you create your life, your words are going to become positive and powerful and attractive. They're going to draw people to you. People are just going to get a sense of feeling better when they're around you. And then you're going to understand the power of speaking and creating your life, because you're going to see it happening every day. And then, I had a couple different stories and examples. There's people who've overcome, terrible things, cancer, and, they've come through all kinds of things by speaking. Every day I'm getting better in every way. Louise Hay has the book about Heal Your Life A to Z, and she was able to completely work through the cancer process with her body, and to be able to put in positive affirmations that spoke to her healing. She passed away at 90 years old as a cancer survivor. And so it's just an incredible thing. Your words have power, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at powerful affirmations and being able to have you build things for yourself to be able that, these statements are going to matter for you. And then in the very ending of this section, page 33, you'll see there where I have a little exercise for you to do where you take those negative crabs that are listed, the things that are out there, and you cross those out and you start writing positive things about them. So you're writing your own antidote for your crab history, whether it be your family, whether it be your community, whether it be yourself. You're going to be reframing those things in a positive way. So that takes us up through page 33. And so I'm going to turn off this recording, and then we'll get another recording started here for our discussion.